Back in the mid-1800s, when these old trees were young, the United States government strongly considered moving the nation's capital from Washington, D.C. to the more centrally located and populous St. Louis, Missouri. That obviously never happened, and while still centrally located, the population of the nation's would-be capital peaked in 1950 at 880,000 and has been on an embarrassing decline ever since. Today, just about 250,000 people live within the city's borders, and after the devastating tornado on May 16, 2025 that tore through a bunch of neighborhoods on the city's north side, I expect that number to be even lower the next time they come around to count us. This has become an existential threat for city leaders, with the Ouroboros of population decline threatening to eat the city whole. And this isn't just a city issue either. The St. Louis region has a population of 2.8 million, and the state of Missouri has a population of 6.3 million, and every single one of those individuals feels the pain of St. Louis's shrinking size and economy. So what's the issue here? Why did St. Louis go from a booming metropolis, the potential seat of government for the United States, to a shriveling husk of its former self? After all, St. Louis is just like every other city. Only it's not. In the late 19th century, the city of St. Louis and St. Louis County split. A vote was taken, a line was drawn, and the city officially seceded from the county, becoming one of only 3 independent cities in the United States, sharing that title only with Baltimore, Maryland, and Carson City, Nevada. And this right here is where our problems began. But we can fix it. We can fix it. It is possible. But first, we have to reckon with our past. The year is 1876. We're post-war, baby! Ulysses S. Grant is president, and St. Louis is the 4th largest city in the United States. This is the year Anheuser-Busch would begin to market Budweiser as a nationally sold lager. It's also the year that St. Louis would tear itself apart. In November 1875, a constitutional convention was held, and 13 freeholders, rich white landowners, were selected to write a city charter that would separate the city and the county governments. The vote to split was taken the following year, and the Great Divorce was complete. Ultimately, through this agreement, the city's size was expanded from 18 square miles to roughly 62 square miles, which I'm sure at the time seemed like a lot, but it ended up being actually pretty constricting because the framers intended for this boundary to never change. Now, not too long after this, the city dropped from the 4th most populous city to the 6th, and it continued its decline from there. This boundary line, this arbitrary yet reportedly immovable political boundary, drawn a century and a half ago, has been the cage that keeps St. Louis, not just the city, but the entire region, from thriving. But of course, this is just a political boundary, and it is and always has been movable. In fact, we've tried before. We tried in 1924, again in 1930, again in 1959. None of these reunification efforts worked, and St. Louis has remained a fractured region, unable to get off of its back foot. I should note that at the time of the vote, it was city residents who wanted to split from the county, but the city has suffered arguably much more than the county in the last 150 years. So, how do we fix it? How do we unify the region, and what exactly would that solve? Merger is kind of a subjective term, and it's left a bad taste in plenty of people's mouths. So I want to be clear on the solution that I am proposing here, which I am going to call annexation. In my version of this, the city of St. Louis becomes a municipality within the county, but also, and more importantly, it would absorb or annex a large number of the smaller municipalities that exist within the county. Which municipalities, how many, that could be determined by a group of people rather than just one guy on the internet. But there are currently around 90 separate municipalities in the county, which is way too many. These are often dense, highly populated areas that share political and economic interest, but they have too many bureaucratic government entities crisscrossing and conflicting. These governments often don't work well together. I think most of these municipalities in the county should be annexed by the city of St. Louis. This would immediately have the effect of making our region's crime stats more accurate and creating a larger, more stable tax base. 2 massive issues facing the St. Louis region. And those are the 2 main issues that I'm trying to solve here. Those are the 2 main issues that I believe annexation will solve. St. Louis gets a bad rap for crime, and our crime stats can look alarming. But the nuance here is that the city absorbs a lot of crime from the county in the form of county residents coming and committing crimes within the city's borders. This means there are a ton of individuals who count towards our crime stats, but not towards our population stats, making our per capita crime rate artificially inflated. Annexation would help us track more accurate crime numbers, which would show that the city of St. Louis is nowhere near the top 10 most violent cities in the country. This could help the region's brand tremendously and could be part of helping businesses feel more comfortable moving their operations and their employees here, which is a huge contributor to population growth. The other issue that I think annexation could fix is financial. Both the city and the county are experiencing budgetary issues. Consolidating the tax base, which that's us, by the way, taxpayers, we're the tax base. By consolidating us under a single flag and government, we could make our city's revenues larger and more stable and predictable. You're kidding, dude. Oh my God. My desk broke. I'm sitting here talking and my desk breaks. By consolidating us under a single flag and government, we could make our city's revenues larger and more stable and predictable. This would have the effect of stopping the Ouroboros and improving services. By the way, when I say these municipalities should become part of the city of St. Louis, I mean the city of St. Louis. I do not mean a newly defined St. Louis metro, because that doesn't make any sense. Have you ever heard of an American city calling itself a metro formally? No, they're cities, because that's the word that we use to describe municipalities of a certain size. Who in their right mind would try to sell anyone the idea of calling their home a metro? All right, those familiar with recent St. Louis political history are wondering why I haven't addressed the elephant in the room. So we have to talk about Better Together, the failed attempt in 2019 to merge the city and the county into a metro run by a single government. A government that would have been led by this man, Steve Stenger, who shortly after Better Together collapsed would end up serving 4 years in federal prison on bribery charges. Now, Better Together never made it in front of the voters, and a big reason for this was pushback from black elected officials in the region. Better Together became such an intense political fight that black elected officials in the region actually ended up calling for the resignation of the president of the county's NAACP. He had claimed that the group was endorsing the Better Together plan, and it was discovered that he was actually being paid by the group who was pushing the merger. I think black elected officials in the region have every reason to be skeptical of a merger. Unfortunately, in arguing for this, I find myself on the same side of the argument as people who see a merger only as an opportunity to seize more power. I am more than willing to admit that annexation would not solve the institutional racism that has underpinned our region for hundreds of years. There is no amount of line drawing that can do that. So I want to be clear, I am not advocating for Better Together 2. Or any proposal that would pre-select the leadership of the city as part of the merger. That's insane. I am proposing that the city of St. Louis be allowed to expand in the same way that every other major American city has been able to for the last 150 years. I am suggesting that this structure would solve two major problems that face the region: crime stats and tax revenues. And I am proposing that regardless of any of this, North St. Louis deserves better from their government. We all do. There's a lot of questions that still need to be addressed in order for this annexation idea to be workable, and I can't go through all of them in one YouTube video essay. And I certainly can't answer a lot of those questions alone. It's going to take a lot of people steering in the same direction. But consider this my entry into the discourse that is already swirling around another merger idea. These conversations are happening, that much is clear. So I propose that the city shouldn't just join the county, but should absorb and annex a lot of the smaller municipalities that surround the city. This could help our city and our region stabilize itself after nearly a century of tumult. We could begin to right the wrongs of the past and build a brighter future for St. Louis. The brighter future that we all deserve. Because the best time to plant a tree is 150 years ago. The second best time is right now. Thank you for watching. This video took about 6 months of research and development and a bunch of friends who helped fact check me and make sure that I wasn't leaving out any important perspectives. If you want to dig into any of the research that I did for this video, the sources are in the YouTube description, but I do want to give a particular shout out to Jeanette Cooperman, who wrote what I consider to be the definitive history of the Great Divorce for St. Louis Magazine. I relied heavily on that article for this video. Please follow, like, subscribe, share, whatever. I really want to keep this conversation going, and I do want to hear what you think, so leave a comment, send me a DM, however you want to reach out. I know this is a big, thorny topic, and a lot of people have opinions. This is supposed to be a conversation piece. Seriously, thanks again for watching.